Energy flow happens in relationships. On a relatively large scale, the sun and the earth are in relationship. The earth is orbiting the sun, and the sun is sending energy in the form of photons to the earth. And then those photons warm the planet, they give energy to the plants, which then give energy to us and all the other living creatures. And this is a relationship. On the small scale, when we think about atoms and molecular interactions, those are relationships as well. Those are where the energetic tension between these atoms are holding them together in this chemical bond. And that's how energy is stored. That's how energy is transferred, right? When the plants take in those photons from the sun, they store that energy in the bonds between the carbon atoms that they got from taking in the CO2 from the air. And then those carbon-carbon bonds, which many times are in the form of carbohydrates, are broken down within our mitochondria in our cells and then release that energy, which then we transfer to ATP, and then that does all the things that our bodies need to do. The relationship is what allows that to happen. And relationships require presence. If you don't bring those chemicals, those molecules close enough to each other, if you don't give them the right conditions where they're present with each other, then that reaction never happens. Like if you take a plant and you put it in a dark room and it's not receiving any sunlight, it's not receiving any photons, that plant is going to die because the energy is no longer flowing to it, and it's not going to be able to capture that energy and store it in the bonds, which is what that plant is here to do. We can think about this on the level of our relationship with ourselves, right? If we're not present with ourselves, if we don't take the time to assess what's going on in our bodies and what our bodies might be trying to tell us, then that can lead to problems. And then also presence in communities. If we don't take the time to be present in a community and figure out what's going on here, why is there so much suffering, what are the issues that we need to address, and how can we cultivate joy, and how can we cultivate harmony in this community, then communities break down, and then people isolate, and then we're all disconnected from each other and we don't have that energy flowing. If we don't spend time out in nature, in ecosystems, then we forget the power that we hold with nature, and we forget how that energy can flow between us and the trees, between us and the water. I'm sitting here by a little creek. This is the kind of stuff that I've been tapping into, and I just think it's so cool how that pattern of relationship, that pattern of presence in the right conditions is how energy flows. Understanding that can unlock a whole new level of seeing the world and seeing how we got to where we are. Because how we got to where we are is disconnection, breakdown of those relationships, is isolation and individualism. And this was imposed on us deliberately, because if people are connected to themselves, to their community, to nature and the ecosystem that they live in, then they're going to want to protect that because they know that that's health, and health is wealth. And when that health is disrupted, then the wealth can be extracted. And there are forces that are doing that and that have been doing that for thousands of years. That's what happened in Europe when the Romans came in. That's what happened with the enclosure of the commons. That's what happened when the Europeans came to the Americas. That's what happened when they took the children away from the native families and put them into boarding schools. It's all about breaking those relationships. So it only makes sense that if that's how we got here, then how we get out of it, how we get back to flow, how we get back to health and abundance and freedom, is to tap back into those relationships. And I think that people often shy away from this because there's some grief there. There's grief in acknowledging that that relationship has been harmed and has been disconnected. And there's also a lot of valid fear there because the forces that disconnected us in the first place are still trying to keep us disconnected. And it's really a spiritual war that we're in. And so usually we it's uncomfortable, so we sweep it under the rug. But we're being asked now in these times to open it up, to look at it, to process that grief. What did we have with those relationships that got taken away from us? when we were disconnected. We need to reclaim that, because that is the key to allowing life to go on. And that is the key to making it through these hard times that we're going through. Because the energy economy is the real economy. The money economy, all this capitalism, all this trying to control and dominate and extract and make profits, that is antithetical to life. Life is based on energy. And so we need to realize that the energy economy is still here. It is ours, and we've just been disconnected from it. Reconnecting to that is going to allow us to reclaim our freedom and make a better world. And we're not just going back. So much has happened to humanity in the meantime. There's so many things that we've learned from these experiences that we can take forward with us into this new era of humanity. Thanks for taking the time to listen. Let me know what this brought up for you in the comments and follow along for more.